What's up, everybody? This is Marty Friedman. I'm at Guitar World in New York City, and I'm going to play you Illumination from the Drama album, my most recent album. So I want to show you a little bit of how I sort of think, every single case is different in my music, so you can't really put one big umbrella for everything. But let me give you an idea of how I create melodies very often. And it's probably the question I get the most. And I'll show you how the intro of Illumination goes, and I'll explain the chords and melodies behind it. And hopefully from learning that, you'll see that every single thing, every space between every note, every melody has something to do with what's behind it. There's nothing that's just kind of randomly in there because it's in a particular key or a particular scale. Everything is kind of worked out to express the melody that I want to play. So I'm going to play the first melody of Illumination, and I'll go over the chord work in a second. So it starts off like this. There's a basic E chord, and I go. So by doing this, I'm kind of like making you think, okay, there's an E major seventh going on here for just a split second there. So your melody is very pleasant over E, but then I'm going to take it into a different direction by using what I think some people call it a passing chord, an F diminished. See how I went from one chord to the next? So let's go to those two chords together and listen to them together. See, it's very basic right here. So right here, playing the fifth of the F sharp minor chord. All this theory stuff, you don't really have to worry about it. Just use your ears for this. Listen to this, play it, and you'll start to see patterns and start to create your own theories about it. You don't need to know all the names and technical terms. Okay, so this time we're going to take the section a little bit farther to the next chord, but we'll take it from the top so you can get context. See what we did over the chord here? The chord is this, which is a D flat augmented chord. You don't need to know that. It just sounds like that 1950s chord to me. It just has that neat sound. So after all that major stuff, it's really got a kind of jars you a little bit. And the way I followed it was I didn't follow it using like an augmented arpeggio like might be in the theory books. What I did was I outlined an F sharp minor chord over it. And the reason why that works is because this has a lot of those notes in there. So it's kind of still got the augmented taste, but I'm not following it just like I'm strictly following my jazz teacher's guitar lesson. You know what I'm saying? So you're allowed to do that. You can change things around as long as it works for your ears. So like the piano's playing this D flat augmented, but I'm just saying, screw that D flat augmented. I'm just going to outline the F sharp minor chord. See what I'm saying? So let's take it all the way from the beginning to there so you can see it in context. Passing. Okay, so you see how it finds its place? Basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm starting with a very pleasant melody at the beginning and then have a little mystery in there and then end it on something that's really, really pleasant to the ears. So we'll continue. I'll explain the part that I just played. So after I followed that D flat augmented with the F sharp minor phrase, I don't know if you'd call this F sharp minor. You're just taking one fret below each note of the chord. And then when it goes to the next chord, B, you're on B. So right, that's a very pleasant, it's a sixth over the B chord. Now here's where the tension and release happens. Let's play those two chords in a row, from B to B with A in the bass. Isn't that reliefful? Is that an English word, reliefful? Isn't that reliefful? Pleasant relief? So let me play these 3 chords in a row so you can see what the chords are and what the direction is of my melody here. So from the B it goes. So now we're at home bass, it's E, it sounds wonderful. But if you listen to the bass line is very easy to understand. So play the bass line by itself. So if you got a bass line that's really already very normal sounding, that allows you to go up top and have a little freedom with the melody, because I'm just taking it all sorts of outside here. So now we'll listen to the whole thing again, and maybe what I said makes sense, and we'll listen. I'll play and listen again from the top. And now that you understand sort of the thought process behind the melody and the chords, now I'm going to show you what I'm doing playing-wise. And just for the record, this can change by the day, by the hour, depending on how I feel. And I want you to always remember that you have the right and the responsibility to play in the way you're feeling that day. So one day you want to slide, one day you want to bend, one day you want to put lots of vibrato, one day you want to put a little bit of vibrato. If you have good content, it allows you to express in several different ways. If your content is not that great, that means that you have to play everything the same way to get it good every time. So that's kind of an important thing that I just said without even thinking about it. So anyway, this content is what I just said. I'm going to show you 1 or maybe 2 different ways I could play this stuff. So from the top, it's very straight. It's just no vibrato, but I'm letting this E string ring the whole time. So it's a very pleasant sound right there. And then when it goes to the passing chord, I go. So when I'm on this chord here, the F diminished, I'm on B, but I'm going to the next chord, which is F sharp, so I'm going to go. So I'm going to slide, and I'm bending here, not slide, I'm bending, I'm going. And it's okay to be a little bit flat if you're on purpose, because it sounds kind of sadder when it's flat. You don't want to really be sharp that much, but yeah, you can, but here I'm purposely being a little bit flat. And when I'm a half step up on this string here, I'm catching it while the string is still bent with my next finger. You can go either direction, whatever. There's a million things you can do with this. Say you're bending a string. You can, if you're bent, you still have other fingers. You can do other stuff with that. So, and then I go to this thing, which is basically, he said neighboring notes, the neighboring notes between every note in the chord. And then I slide to that, just because it's convenient. And I want to bring this note out here because the chord is really nice. I'm like, hey, listen to this dissonance, but I'm going to relieve you guys really quickly. But while it's dissonant, I want to make you sure that you know that it's not a mistake. Because if you play this thing without confidence, it's just going to sound like, it's just going to sound wrong. But if you play it like you mean it, people won't even think it sounds dissonant at all. It just sounds beautiful. So that's why if you listen to like classical music and analyze it, there's all kinds of things where they're like hanging on notes that are really weird, but it's played so well and with so much meaning that you don't think, well, that's kind of against any theory that I've ever learned in a book. But so anyway, so what I'm saying is, I make sure that I really nail this F right here, because the F is being played over a B with an A in the bass. But it's how you context these things, and I context it one way, you may context it another way. It's all good. It just has to work for your ear. If you like it and you think that's my note, the hell with what it says in the theory books. So I'm going to play this again and watch the way I finger it. This is pretty the basic way I finger this particular part from the top. The thing about pre-bending, what's good, is if you're just holding a note and vibrating it, you can't go down, but if you're here, you can go down with it. So it's really basic, but allows you certain options, but if you're here, of course, you can do it from anywhere, but like if you're on the note, you can only go upwards, unless you're using a bar, which is another way to do it. Okay, we're going to play this again from the top, and then we're going to keep going, and then I'm going to explain what happens in the next couple chords, because it's got some interesting fingering. So it's from the top it goes. Let's just get that much there, right there. So we'll take it from the second part of the melody, and you'll see how I do some unique fingerings here. See how many things went on in here? I'm going to have to break this down for you because this is super important and a huge element of not only my clean playing, but all of my solo playing. And it's just one of the things that makes me sound like me, and people say, how do you sound unique? Well, you got to pay attention to these like silly little details, whichever ones you like, not necessarily mine, but you got to get in the habit of finding your own little details and bringing those out. So I'm going to show you these details here. You can take them or morph them into something else, but anyway, so I'm going to the second part of the melody, which is kind of a little bit exotic, so to speak. Same place. So I'm going to play just that. So like I'm doing slides in there where most guys might go something like that, which is completely fine. But I figure if you slide into a note in between a line, it's going to give a line a lot more flavors, like you're really enunciating. Other than, you don't want to sound like a piano recital. This is something that I try to avoid. Maybe if you like that sound, wonderful, that's great. But like in my playing, there's always like some kind of thing that's going to take a pretty normal line and make it sound unusual. And in this particular case, it's sliding. So I'm going back. It's like I'm going to a weird finger. That's not usual, is it? And then I do it again. So I'm like leading with my first finger here. And then the chord is D flat, but I'm playing a D. Play D flat. Play it again. People say you're not supposed to do that. But I think it sounds wonderful. So I'm going to play that same section again, knowing what you know now. Listen to it again. So when the piano is playing this chord, which is a D flat 7, flat 9, I'm playing the 7th right there, which is B, which is really it's a sad kind of reverberation there. So let's play those same things again, a little bit slower from this. So. It's just so somber. It's not, to me, I'm always trying to emulate, like those very old school Italian restaurants like in Italy, and there's a guy coming up to your table with the violin, and he's like really irritating. That's kind of like my playing is that. I really just love the violin phrasings of that. Let me show you an option of how to phrase this. First, I'll show you it exactly the way I just did it now. It's the same place. So that's that phrasing. One other way to do it would be something like this. So that kind of rushes on that one note. If you want to emphasize that one note, maybe Thursday you feel that way, maybe Friday you feel a different way. But to know that those options are there is where you develop your style, because the choices that you make you're the sum total of all the choices that you make. Every note that you play is part of what's John Smith. Well, he does this here, he does this here, he does this. You make those choices. So I'm going to play that option one more time. So you do little options there, but the melody is like, I know what the melody is, so I can bend it, or I can go. It's like, here's your flat 9 in your face, where I can be a little more subtle on it, however I feel. Like, for example, if there's a lot of girls in front, maybe I'm going to be a little bit more subtle about that flat 9. But if it's a bunch of like musos, I'm going to like, here's your flat 9, right in your face. So those are the kind of choices that you make when you're playing live. And if you have your melody worked out and you know what you're going to play, there's kind of an endless ways to express that. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense. So that was a little bit of the intro from my song Illumination from the album Drama. Hope you dig the album. I'm here at Guitar World in New York City, and they've been so extremely gracious with me and my strange terminology, and extremely inspiring, picking up things about my playing that I didn't even know. And hopefully what you get out of this is not that you have to copy it, is if you just get some of these concepts and find your own things that work easiest and best for you, that kind of define how you want to be identified with as a guitar player. I want I want people to know that I love the sound of a thick distortion with a big, long bent note, or whatever it is that you prefer. You make those choices, and hopefully that got through to you.